Hey, I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network. We do this show every week when we can fit it into our calendars. And what's our purpose? Our purpose is to share information with you that can help you in your business. And today's going to be another one of those episodes. Last week, folks, we had a phenomenal session. We talked about the questions asked if you're considering selling to private equity. A lot of likes. We really appreciate those of you that have liked this. It really feeds us to make sure, help us know that we're making a difference in your business out there, which is why we do this. So my name's Jerry Isenhour. With me today is Sheryl Isenhour and Josh Kelley. Because again, today's topic is going to be a real important discussion. It doesn't make any difference what business you're in. This is information coming to you to help you be more successful. And today we're talking about something that separates successful companies from companies that constantly struggle. And what are we going to be talking about? Key performance indicators. Abbreviated down, we call them KPIs. Now, before you think this is just going to be a boring discussion about spreadsheets and accounting reports, you better stay with us. They're not just numbers. They tell you the story of your business. They tell you where you're winning. They tell you where you're losing. And more importantly, they tell you what to do next. KPIs are important for today's operation. And they're vastly important if you're going to one day exit that business and you want to sell to a private buyer or move on and let home equity be a part of that. So to start this off, you need to understand KPI is simply a measurable that tells you whether your company is moving in towards its goals. And as I was putting this together, I was thinking, I've got several cars. The primary car I drive most time is an SUV, very modern. And it has gauges that tell me all kinds of things. I can check the air pressure going down the road. I've got a GPS that tells me where I'm going, tells me if there's going to be obstructions ahead. And the other day I was in Maryland and it was even telling me, hey, there's a speed camera ahead. There's a speed camera ahead as I drove through Washington. And it was really neat. And think about it. If you're on a truck, on the travels through America, are you looking at your speedometer, your fuel gauge, your engine temperature, your oil pressure? Of course you are. But that older car I drive, I've got a 61 model out there. I love to drive it, but at the same time, it don't have any of these nice things. It can't tell me what the air pressure is. It doesn't have a GPS built into it. It doesn't have all these things. But see, this is what business owners have to do, what managers have to do. They got to look at the gauges that matter and not just wonder why my profits disappear, but why did they disappear? There's an old saying. It's one of my favorite quotes. You cannot improve what you do not measure. If you don't track something, you can't manage it. You can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, how are you going to improve it? And if you can't improve it, somebody else is going to come along and they're going to outdistance you. They're going to outdistance you. Just like Amazon came along, look at all the companies Amazon has put out of business because of what they're providing. Ordered from them this morning. Hey, it's sitting on my doorstep usually early afternoon. It's unreal. When it's Sheryl in there, she doesn't ever go to the grocery store. They're delivered to the doorstep. All she has to do is walk to the front door and get them. It's companies that look at what they've got to do to meet the demands of today's consumers. So, Sheryl, as we talk about KPIs, what's in your mind after I came up with this topic for the day? What did you think about this?
I think it's a good topic. And a lot of people, I don't think they even knew what KPI stood for, but people need to realize that your bank account tells you what happened. Your KPI is going to tell you what's going to happen. And that's actually more important than what has already happened. And the companies that consistently look at these, they make their decisions on their feelings if they don't look at their KPI, and they're not based on facts. And the thing we've always heard, numbers don't lie.
Yeah. And Josh, this should be an area that's really up your line, because in today's world, with today's software, tracking these KPIs now is becoming automatic. Like I was talking to a client this week, and we were talking, and I was asking, what's your closure rate on your appointments coming in? What's the closure rate? How many are you converting? Well, Jerry, I don't know the answer. No, because you don't track those metrics. You don't track them. And without tracking it, you don't know what's happening. So Josh, your expertise in our group is in the area of software. Tell me your thoughts on tracking the KPIs and measuring how the business is doing.
Well, they can all be automatic these days. You just got to set them up. Service Titan has reports for this, or you can make custom reports and you just have them delivered to your email with whatever frequency you want. So you can check it every single day. You can get messages when something sells and, things like that. So with all these integrations and softwares and things like that, it's hard. You almost have to go out of your way not to know them. But, I had a discussion with a client recently, and you're talking about close rates, and we talked about it, and because we were talking about how do we route? How are we going to route our jobs? Are we routing by efficiency of the route, or are we going to route by what's going to make us the most money? And kind of, what do you mean what's going to make us the most money? Obviously routing for efficiency. And I said, well, no, because we can look at our close rates and we say technician A has a 30% close rate and technician B has a 10% close rate. Who's going to make us more money on these high dollar jobs? You may lose an appointment here or something like that, but overall you're going to generate an extra $2,000 a day if you put technician A over here versus technician B. And those are some of the things and those allow you to have discussions like that. What do we really mean? We're here to make money, right, Jerry? I'm here to make money.
I don't know. Yeah, if you're not here, if you're running the business and you don't have making profit in mind, then you're running a charity. You just got a hobby, folks.
Yep. And at the end of the day, what's going to put more dollars in your pockets? It's putting people in the right spots. And if someone's not a closer, which is fine, sometimes that's a personal conflict. Sometimes that's a training thing. Sheryl could tell you more about that, but you can at least see the numbers and go, okay, what's going on here? Do we need to put them on what types of jobs that are going to make us the most money?
Yeah. So folks, keep it in mind. This is something that really matters, because every improvement in your KPI, the KPIs you watch, makes your company more valuable, because there may come a day you decide to sell. And here's the sorry thing that you got to realize. Prospective buyers don't buy hope. They don't. Banks don't lend money on hope. And private equity doesn't invest in the hope. They invest in systems. You heard Mike talk about this last week, what they're looking for. All these are looking for systems. They're looking for consistency, predictability. They want documented performance. Let's take a look at two companies. Company A says, hey, we're doing pretty well. Company B says, our average tickets increased 12%. Callbacks dropped from 8% to 2%. Revenue per technician increased 18%. Gross profit improved from 42 to 49%. Customer satisfaction now averages 4.9 stars on Google. Which company commands the highest valuation? That answer is pretty obvious. Great KPIs, they're going to improve profits, but they're also going to do something else. They increase the multiple someone is willing to pay for your business one day when it is time to exit out and go to the next avenue of life you've selected. So, Sheryl, back to you. Your thoughts on what I just said.
Now, can I jump off that a little bit and go somewhere? Josh opened the door that I want to
Sure.
lead a little farther in. You know, my expertise is in the disc. Okay. As I was reading on this, different personalities look at the exact same KPI differently, and they see totally different stories. Like a high D, such as actually all three of us, we look more at growth. A high I or look for happy customers. A high S, well, they look for consistency, and a high C looks for accuracy. None of them are wrong, but if they but from what they're looking at, they're looking through, if they can't look through one lens, and you'll miss a lot of opportunities. And I think that that's what I've seen a lot when I hear you talking to customers, is when you're talking to them about the KPI. I've been running through my mind because all of them were seeing different things. So somewhere along the line, either you need more people looking at KPI, which I think everybody needs, their staff, all their staff looking at it, but you've got to look at it from all lenses, because the growth isn't going to always get you there. The happy customers aren't going to get you there. Consistency is not going to get you there. And accuracy doesn't always. It's like a box of rocks. You need to make a big rock out of it. And that's the area I started diving in more after you said you wanted to go here. I thought it was really interesting.
Fantastic. Wise words. Josh, your turn. You're sitting there absorbing all this. What's your thought?
Well, if you're talking about selling, you got to know your numbers, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it's pretty short and sweet. I loved we've kind of talked about those triage forms I have. And then, or getting to the root cause of callback so I can cut down on callbacks. But if you're not tracking, every one of those little things, or who's generating callbacks, you're just incorrecting issues. Because I think running a business is kind of like trying to hold back a dam, and you just got to keep plugging it. Because as I learned over the years, salespeople always find a new way to piss me off.
Okay. So, what are these KPIs that every manager should review? Well, one of them naturally is revenue. And this is what you got to review it. And my suggestion is it should be reviewed daily. But you got to set up your own system of what you're going to do. Is it going to be reviewed daily, weekly, monthly, and why? Revenue is going to tell you whether demand exists. But you got to remember, revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. Revenue without profit is very dangerous. High revenue with no profit is a path to bankruptcy, folks. You got to look at your gross profit percentages. This is probably one of the most overlooked KPIs. Gross profit is going to tell you whether you're pricing correctly, buying correctly, producing efficiently, what your targets are. Most home service companies need to strive for healthy, consistent gross margins that fit their business model. If gross profit starts failing, they need to find out the reason why, and they need to do it immediately. Average tickets. This is going to be one of the fastest ways to grow. Ask yourself, are your technicians educating customers? Are they inspecting the entire system? One of the terms that we've used in training, and I've developed classes for this, are they acting as trusted advisors? If your average ticket isn't increasing, training needs attention. You got to look at what your closing percentages are. How many quotes are presented? Of those, how many get sold? What's your closing ratio? If you're closing 30%, why? What's the reason? Is it because of pricing, presentation, lack of trust, poor follow-up? These are all areas where coaching might be needed in your company. What about your call conversions? How many calls become appointments? If the CSR in your office answers 100 calls, how many are actually scheduled? If it's low, the issue may not be marketing. It could be the phone. Could be the phone. What's your technician revenue per day? Measures productivity. Every truck should produce enough revenue to support itself and contribute profit. A large difference between technicians often reveal you've got training and coaching opportunities out there. You got to look at your revenue per employee. How much are you making per year on each person? What are you billing? This is one of the simplest indicators of efficiency. If revenue rises while employee count stays stable, guess what? Your efficiency has improved. What about your callbacks? They're expensive. They're waste. They consume your fuel, your payroll, opportunities, customer callbacks, confidence. Every callback should be reviewed. We need to ask, why did it happen? Could it have been prevented? What do we do to prevent this from occurring again? Customer reviews. What's our average rating? What's the new reviews? Negative trends, response time. You got to remember, your online reputation is the modern storefront today. It is the word of mouth that consumers are now looking at. What about your receivables? If you're just earning the money and not taking it in, billing it sitting out there, it's not real money yet. All receivables are damaging your cash flow. It's cash flow that keeps the business alive. Are you doing job costing? Did each job you do make money? Many companies knows what their sales are, but they really don't know what the profits are by job. Without job costing, you're simply guessing. What's your marketing ROI? Where did the lead come from? Where did the lead come from? How much did it cost? I heard an ad on social media in the last few days. Hey, we will provide you leads at $55 per lead. $55. Do you actually know what your leads costing you? How much revenue resulted from that? Which of your marketing works? Which doesn't? Then you got employee turnover. You got to track this. Do you have a hiring issue? Do you have a training issue? What's the average length of employment? Remember one of the things Mike said last week. Private equity is looking at cultures that retain great people. What about your safety record? Injuries can cost thousands of dollars. You got to track your near misses, your OSHA incidents, vehicle accidents, workers' compensation, everything. Lack of safety is lack of profit, folks. You got to look at your technician utilization. How much of their day is spent driving? How much is spent waiting? How long does it take them to get out the door in the morning? Are they sitting in the parking lot playing games, just having deep discussions? What's happening? What's working? What's selling? Again, it's all about your efficiency that creates your profitability and prevents that word I hate, which is waste, we've talked about so many times. So, Sheryl, that was a long list. I'm going back to you. What's your thoughts?
You're talking a lot about the top of the company. My thoughts are more dealing with the people I'm working with, as you know. Numbers don't replace the leadership, and they don't improve leadership either. And your KPIs don't tell you who to fire. And what they tell you, if people will think about it, they tell you where to ask the better questions. And when something goes wrong, we've always called them fumbles, okay? So questions you need to ask instead of standing there jumping up and down talking about my KPIs aren't working, this isn't working. What you need to do is ask, what happened? Why did it happen? What can we improve? And then ask the big question, who needs support? Because a lot of times I think that's where a lot of business owners lose the track of. Some people are not sure what's going on. Sometimes they just need the support, not to be fired, but a little bit of support, especially your leadership team. And that's how you make great managers. You coach them instead of criticizing them.
Good words. Josh, your turn.
Well, you actually said a lot of things.
Yes.
So I wrote a few things down. One of them was educating customers and trusted advisors. Me and you talked about this recently about just getting in the house and getting them to sit down, right?
Right.
Sit down at the table with the customer. Don't do the tailgate inspection, right? Don't just stand there at the curb and do it, because no one's gonna be comfortable. No one's gonna get ready to buy. How are you going about educating the customer? Are you still using paper forms? In this day and age, we did a whole thing on AI and generating custom images. Have you seen from my stuff lately, Jerry? I'm generating images every single day for clients, hundreds of them, hundreds if not thousands I've generated. How are you incorporating those into your pitches? Because you can write, I'm writing these, I don't know, 500 word summaries on rebuilding a chimney, which is great because, but do you have do you have leave behinds? Do you have something that says who we are? I'm sure you've seen a company cam, right? I'm sure you're still getting the social media posts about it, right? Lately, are you getting the one about the concrete guy?
Yeah.
Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy goes, "Why should I trust you?" And what does the company cam guy say? He goes, "Here," hands him his phone. "Here's every job I've done for the last 6 months."
Right.
That's how he built. That's how he instantly, when he said being trusted. And that was for a concrete. And as you know, in our industry, homeowners don't understand most of what we do. And getting them to understand why their chimney's falling apart, why they need to have the liner put in, why they need a new wood stove, all that takes time. And, like when the air conditioner goes out, people understand that because they're uncomfortable, right? They can't see the leak right away, things like that. So how are you doing that? Are you generating leave behinds? Like I said, especially in this day and age, it's not that hard to generate leave behinds. You can still go on Fiverr. I haven't been on that one in a while, but Fiverr and freelance sites like Fiverr and Freelancer, and generate that stuff for relatively cheap. We had Jill on here the other day talking about, and she showed off her wonderful presentation folders that talked about the history of the company, and things like that, and all the services they offer. So, each, we have a mutual client. One thing their guys are really good about doing about building trust. Did you see the coupon on our website? You know what I'm talking about, Jerry?
Oh, yeah.
The technicians, if the customer doesn't call specifically asking about the coupon, the technician, did you see the $25 off coupon on our website? And what does that do? Hey, I'm looking out for you.
Yeah.
A little bit, $25 is as far as it goes as building the trust is really cheap. It's a nice, easy way to say, hey, we had a little special. Did you see that? And then all of a sudden now they're a little bit more warmed up to you. Same thing. We've had this discussion, and I don't know if I've had it with you, but I had it with a client recently. When the technician walks in the door and goes, "This is all screwed. and starts the sell process, right?
Don't worry.
Versus, even if the chimney doesn't need cleaning or anything like that, or if you don't go in there, even if it doesn't need to be cleaned and you don't clean it, they instantly think there's something wrong. Why didn't you clean it? Why didn't you knock the cobwebs off? Why didn't you do the dog and pony show? Why didn't you get a little bead of sweat on your forehead? And that changes their mentality. I learned that as a technician. You go out, flue tiles are collapsed. Oh man, your chimney's got a blockage. Oh, you're just trying to upsell me. And this was, back when I first started, so before we had tablets. So proving that was a lot harder, back then. But no one's, if you're not building that trust by doing a job, working hard for the customer, then they're instantly on guard in today's world.
Gotcha.
Well, I can go on, but I'll let you go.
Okay. So here's what you got to do. If you're a competent manager, review your KPIs at least weekly. Here's where many companies fail. They review them once a month, maybe once a quarter, or sometimes never. And it's just too late. Your problems don't wait for 30 days. You got to review these KPIs weekly. This is where you need to be sitting down with your leadership team and going over all these factors. Some you need to check every day. And you need to have a dashboard. And your dashboard needs to have colors. Hey, if it's all healthy, label that green. If you got to watch this one, label it yellow. And if you label it red, it means, hey, stop. We got to take care of this right now. It needs immediate action. If your management isn't reacting, it's because they're not anticipating. So the questions every manager should ask every week: what improved? What declined? Why did these things happen? What action are we taking? Who owns the solution? When will we review progress? Remember, a KPI without accountability is just an increasing number. And it goes down to one of the best business books ever written, in my opinion, is the book Traction by Gino, I forgot his last name. Wickman. Written by him. And he talks about the process, the level 10 meeting once a week. So Sheryl, back to you for your final thoughts on today's subject.
Well, as much as I believe everyone needs to track the numbers, that's not all they have to do. The home service companies, they need to build the team that understands those numbers, not just read them themselves, but build your team to understand. And when you combine the KPI with the understanding of the DISC, as we talked about early, something really powerful happens. Your D leaders drive results. Your I leaders strengthen customer relationships. Your S leaders create consistency, and your C leaders protect profitability. And together, they don't just read the dashboard. They build a healthier, more profitable business. And the one thing I want everybody to remember is numbers tell you what happened. People determine what happens next. Great leaders know how to understand both.
There you go. Good thoughts as always, Sheryl. Josh, what's your closing thoughts on the subject of KPIs?
You mentioned it, your level 10 meetings. I don't know that you need to have quite a level 10, but you have an agenda every week with your managers, and and what you just talked about, what's in progress, what's working, what's not working, and you have a few things that you hammer on each and every week, and they become easier and easier each time. But having that meeting and having meetings with your technicians is all very important part of this.
There you go. Good words again. So my closing words, I want to leave you with one final thought today. Businesses don't fail overnight. They fail because small problems have gone unnoticed and is wrecking the companies. Your KPIs, that's your early warning system. It's just like when your car fuel gauge says, hey, low fuel. They're your early warning. They allow you to solve problems while they're still small. They improve profitability, and profit is why you're in business. I don't think anyone here is running a nonprofit business. They improve accountability. You have the data to show your people. They improve your customer satisfaction, which in turn improves your reviews, which in turn draw more people to you. They improve your employee performance. And perhaps more importantly, they increase the value of your company. And just like Mike talked about last week, EBITDA, it's going to be a multiple of EBITDA. And that's going to be a very, very widespread multiplier when that time's come. It's going to create generational wealth. Eventually sell your business. The companies that command the highest valuations are the companies that understand their numbers. Because buyers don't pay more for businesses with big dreams. Big dreams don't bring anything at the negotiation table. They pay more for businesses with predictable performance. So here you go. I've talked about a lot of different KPIs in this episode. Choose 10 of them. Build your dashboard. Review it every week. Discuss it with your leadership team. In today's world, the software is out there that can do this tracking for you if you enter the information in. You got to remember the old accounting term, garbage in, you get garbage out. Please remember what I told you in here. You cannot improve what you do not measure. You got to track it. You got to measure it. Then you got to take action. And you cannot build extraordinary value without extraordinary accountability. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us today on the CBC Home Service Network. If you found today's discussion valuable, hey, give us a like. Share it out there. Watch us every week. Feel free to leave a comment. What's the number one KPI your company reviews every week? And until next time, this is Jerry Isenhour, along with Sheryl Isenhour and Josh Kelley. We appreciate you joining us for this episode as always. And with that, we're going to wish you a wonderful week ahead. And we do thank you for joining us. Have a great life ahead, folks. But business is work, and success takes dedication, and it takes ongoing work to make it happen. See you next time. Have a fantastic weekend, like I said a while ago.